truth shall set you free. We're studying bogus beliefs, and we've looked at several: the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, Christian Science. Today is one of the hardest lessons I've had to prepare, and to be real honest with you, I still don't know if I'm prepared. I'm dealing with Scientology. And last week we saw Christian Science, and we realized it's kind of out there. It's a lot of, Well, Scientology is even worse. It's amazing that anybody believes these things, but they do. And they really get into it. Scientology is a growing religion. It's popular. A lot of celebrities have bought into it and promote it. And so today, what I'm going to try to do is give you the best I could of gleaning what it's all about. Now, Scientology, let me find my place here. There it is. I'm using Walter Martin's book on cults, and it's a classic. If you really want to study cults, get that book. Gives it history, gives you what they believe, et cetera, et cetera. And he did an excellent job. And Scientology, he gives us some information. Scientology was actually started by a fellow named L. Ron Hubbard. And pretty unique individual. Hubbard was born on March 13th, 1911 in Nebraska. This fellow grew up and became a very popular and very adept science fiction writer through the 30s and 40s. Isn't that amazing? This fellow finds a new religion, and he's very adept at science fiction. I think you'll see a correlation there. He became unenamored, if I can put it that way, with writing for science fiction. He said this, here's a quote from him. "Writing for a penny a word is ridiculous. If a man really wanted to make $1 million, the best way would be to start his own religion." So the next year he did that. The following year, May 1950, he released a book. You may have heard of it, Dianetics, A Modern Science of Mental Health. Dianetics, A Modern Science of Mental Health. It's become entry-level reading for converts to Scientology. So if you want to convert to Scientology, first thing you got to do is read his book, Dianetics, Modern Science of Mental Health. Well, his overnight success with Dianetics virtually gave him a new career writing self-help and religious books. His first book on Scientology was published in 1951, and the Church of Scientology in California was incorporated in February 1954. So this all started around 1950. Now in the early 50s, it's really starting to get a foothold. This fellow Hubbard was raised in Helena, Montana. You know what's in Helena, Montana? Nothing. Really, if you study Montana, I mean, it is just a vast state with a lot of open land and not a whole lot there. But in Helena, there were 4 churches, and he became very cynical towards Christianity. Hubbard liked to travel abroad. He was one of the youngest Eagle Scouts in the history of the Boy Scouts of America. His books often carry a short biographical sketch of his accomplishments, also described in the Scientology Dictionary. Here's what it says about him. He traveled extensively in Asia as a young man. He studied science and mathematics at George Washington University, graduating from Columbia College. He attended Princeton University and Sequoia University. Crippled and blind at the end of the war, World War II, he resumed his studies of philosophy and by his discoveries, recovered so fully that he was reclassified in 1949 for full combat duty, fit for full combat duty. It was a matter of medical record that he has been twice pronounced dead, and that in 1950 he was given a perfect score on mental physical fitness programs. Now, I read all that. All that's a big lie. He did very little of that. He wasn't wounded. He wrote his own press release, I guess, and he had a little problem with the truth. Okay, let me see what else we can find. The success of Hubbard's writing skills cannot be argued. The manuscript for Dianetics has 180,000 words, and supposedly he completed that in 3 weeks. His personal qualifications as a religious leader were everything but saintly. Now, this fellow was married 3 times. His first wife left him. His second wife, no, maybe I have that wrong. His first 2 marriages were disastrous. His second wife, Sarah Northwood Hubbard, sued him for divorce on April 23rd, 1951. The reason she sued him is because she found out he had committed bigamy. He was still married to his first wife when he married his second wife. And so she divorced him, and then later he got another one. His wife's divorce allegations, she claimed sleep deprivation, beating, strangulation, kidnapping of their children, and that he fled to Cuba with them. She also claimed that he counseled her to commit suicide. So we see what kind of character we're dealing with, don't we? The resources. Listen, he wrote this book, Dianetics, The Science of the Mind. But here's the resources he used. The medicine man of the Goldie people of Manchuria, the shamans of North Borneo, a Sioux Indian medicine man, the cults of Los Angeles, and modern psychology. Among the people, questions about its existence were a magician whose ancestors served in the court of Kublai Khan, and a Hindu who could hypnotize cats. Dabbles had been made in mysticism. Data had been studied from mythology to spiritualism. Well, we're getting a picture of who this guy is. He spent his final years in seclusion. Eventually, he succumbed to a cerebral vascular accident. That's what we know it as a stroke. But in their refusal to believe that such a great science of the mind master could die a horrific death, the word dead or died was never used in his eulogy. Scientologists announced that L. Ron Hubbard decisively discarded the body to move into the next level of research outside of his body. Oh boy. Well, the term Dianetics means through thought. And so this is all about the mind. And I'm going to give you some of the things they believe. You're going to can't believe somebody would believe that. Mankind, according to Hubbard, is basically good. I guess he don't read the newspaper or look at the television, 6 o'clock news. The man is basically good. The basic instinct for all people is survival. Man's environmental conditions and painful experiences result in failure. So if a man changes his circumstances and eliminates pain, then his condition improves. 2 important factors for man's survival then are avoiding pain and gaining pleasure. Now, this thing is all about the mind. The structure of a man's mind, according to Hubbard, is divided into 3 categories. There's the analytical mind, there's the reactive mind, and there's the somatic mind. The analytical mind is a part of our mind that works like a perfect computer, never makes a mistake. It's also the I of a person. It's the me. So that's the analytical mind. The reactive mind works on a totally stimulus response basis. So your analytical mind is already programmed to do right, never makes a mistake. The, what did he call the second one? Reactive mind works on a totally stimulus basis. The reactive mind holds mental picture images of past experience, watch this word, called engrams. Now, this fellow Hubbard developed something like 3,000 new words for his religion. And these are things we've never heard of. An engram. What that is a mental picture of some traumatic, some negative circumstance in your life. All right? And they're apparently the single source of aberrations and psychosomatic ills. These engrams are the problem. Some liken the reactive mind to the subconscious mind. The analytical and the reactive minds direct the somatic mind. Now, so his theory is that the problem with humanity is this reactive mind, and this reactive mind frequently interrupts the analytical mind. If all we had to go on was our analytical mind, everything would be perfect. We'd never make a mistake. But this reactive mind steps in and interrupts the analytical mind and causes all the negative and mistakes that we make, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see what else I can share with you. Okay, the solution to the reactive mind, interrupting the analytical mind, is to rid the reactive mind of these engrams. So you've got these engrams, and they're what cause your problems. So you got to get rid of them. You say, well, how do you do that? Well, I'm about to explain it to you. Once this is accomplished, a person is called, here's another term that they plugged into their religion, a clear. The clear person has no reaction to the same situation because no engram stimulates it. The goal of Dianetics is to clear the individual of all engrams of his past. Now, in the beginning, Dianetics only dealt with engrams in this lifetime. After more probing, Scientologists claim that they carry engrams from past lives, which also need to be cleared. So the clear person, the one who's dealt with all their engrams now, is on the evolutionary journey to the next stage of man, a godlike being. So, the application of Hubbard's hypothesis is to vanquish the engrams through Dianetic therapy. So, here's how you get rid of your engrams. This is accomplished by an auditor who audits let me find where I am here again. I'm trying to stick to this because I don't really understand a lot of this, to be honest with you. I know what it says, but I don't know how anybody believes it. Anyway, this is accomplished by an auditor who audits the engram through a form of counseling. So let's imagine you're a person and you have these engrams and you want to deal with them. So you have to go to an auditor. This is a person that you interview with and you tell them all about your engrams, et cetera, and you try to deal with them. And when you're doing that, you're called a pre-clear. You're not clear yet. So the term they use for you is a pre-clear. The pre-clear, the person not yet clear, holds two tin cans connected by wires, and the wires are connected to an e-meter. Now, this is serious. This is what Scientology believes and does. So you're holding these two cans connected by wires, connected to this meter, somewhat similar to maybe a polygraph or something. And as the auditor gives commands to the person who's a pre-clear, the needle fluctuation determines if they detected a possible engram. So this auditor has this little machine type thing he's watching, and as they deal with things, then all of a sudden the needle starts to move and you find out if you're dealing with one. By tracking the egram through the questioning, the pre-clear can erase the engram. That may only be the beginning of problems for the pre-clear, though. They may detect other engrams in connection with the first, producing a chain of engrams. It may take years of auditing for a person to become finally clear. Now, how many of you this past week or the week before saw the news that there was a cruise ship with 300 people on, and one person on there had measles, and they wouldn't let him off? That ship is owned by Scientology. Scientology owns the ship, and they use it for these kind of things, indoctrination. And people get on this ship, and they go for this cruise, but the cruise is to do counseling and to indoctrinate into Scientology. Okay, let me give you just a couple of more things. As I say, this is the wacko. It just blows your mind when you... And I didn't even get that deep into it. I mean, I got as deep as I could. But it just... Number one, they believe every human is an immortal, spiritual being. Well, we believe that, don't we? Now, they have a term for you if you're an immortal, spiritual being. You're a thetan. 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 So now you're a thetan. But understand this. You are a thetan that abides in a physical body. We believe we're a spirit that abides in a physical body, right? They believe you're a thetan, but you abide in this physical body. But see, their idea is a little different in that this thetan has lived innumerable past lives. They're very much into reincarnation, that kind of an idea. Lives before the thetan... Lives before the thetan's arrival on Earth were lived in extraterrestrial cultures. So they believe that before you arrived here on Earth as a thetan, you lived somewhere else in extraterrestrial cultures, outer space. Maybe that's what all this kidnapping by aliens is all about. Understanding the thetan distinguishes Scientology from other religious traditions, especially Judaism and Christianity, in three ways. Number one, while many religions fuse the concept of the body and the soul, the thetan spirit is separate and independent. So we believe the body and soul were put together by God. They believe the thetan is separate. They actually believe this thetan can separate from the body and act independent of the body. Now, to me, that leans towards demonology. They believe that. So, number one, they don't believe in fusing the thetan with the body. They remain independent. Scientologists believe in past lives and that the thetan has lived through many, perhaps thousands of lifetimes. So they believe you as a thetan have lived thousands of lifetimes. Contrary to Christian concepts of original sin, Scientology holds to the intrinsic goodness of man. And we talked about that. They believe man is intrinsically good. Now that flies right in the face of the Bible, doesn't it? What's the Bible say about man? There is none righteous, no, not one. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But they see it in a little different direction. They believe man is basically good, that he is seeking to survive, and that his survival depends on himself and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. Okay, let me get some things out of here for you. Some of this will be repetition, but I'm going to try to go through some of it. Any comments thus far? It's all clear as mud, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. Uh, oh yeah, yeah. It's very big in California, and that's where he started it. And it's become a popular thing, and there's a lot to this in the psychological aspect, and it appeals to people that people are into the unknown, and so they get into this, and they're thinking that they're going to learn more about the other life and this and that and the next thing, and it's enamoring to them. Now, Scientology says that a human is an immortal spirit being. I said he's a thetan and is resident in an earthly body. According to the church founder, Ron Hubbard, his discovery of the thetan places Scientology at the heart of human quest for meaning. So they offer, we're going to help you to understand the meaning of life, and proves that its origins are as ancient as religious thought itself. By the way, they've linked Scientology in a lot of ways to Buddhism and Hindu. The Hindu religion has a lot of similarities. Let's see. Scientology considers that its understanding of the thetan distinguishes it from other religious traditions in the three ways that we've stated. Scientology describes itself as the study and handling of the spirit in relationship to itself, in relationship to others, and the relationship to all of life. Scientologists also believe that people have innate yet suppressed power and ability, which can be regained if cleared of enforced and unwanted behavior patterns and discoveries, these engrams. So they believe when you deal with your engrams, you're actually unlocking your power. Scientology is described as a religion of help to people, as a religion to help people use scientific approaches to self-actualization to reach their full potential. Believers reach their full potential when they understand themselves in their true relationship to the physical universe and the supreme being. Do they believe in a supreme being? Some sort of supreme being, but not the one we believe in. Something interesting about Scientologists, you can belong to another religion and belong to Scientology. They see themselves as separate from that. Let's talk about the reactive mind. One of the basic tenets are the beliefs that human beings are immortal. Now, we believe that, but not like them. We don't believe we've been reincarnated and that we've existed way back and have had thousands of lives before this one. So they believe human beings are immortal, that a person's life experience transcends a single lifetime. So your life experience is more than just this life. And that human beings possess infinite capabilities. You see, they believe there's a lot of things locked up in us that Scientology helps to unlock. And that's a draw for people. You know, they're searching and they think there's answers here. Again, they have these two divisions of the mind, the reactive mind, the analytical mind. The reactive mind stores mental images which are not readily available to the analytical mind in these engrams. Engrams are painful and debilitating. So these are the negative things of life, these engrams. And they're stored in that reactive part of your mind. They accumulate People move further and further away from their true identity as they do accumulate. And so the Dianetic auditing is one way by which Scientologists may progress toward the clear state. Their goal is to become clear. That means you have no more reactive thoughts or memories. Everything, all the negative of your life has been resolved. And now the analytical can take over, and now you're called a clear. Oh, let's see. Hubbard's differentiation of the reactive mind and the analytical mind forms one of the basic tenets of Dianetics. The analytical mind is similar to the conscious mind, and which may process daily information and events. The reactive mind produces the mind's aberrations, such as fear, inhibition, intense love, and hate, and various psychosomatic ills, which are recorded as engrams. So again, these engrams are everything negative, and according to the Scientologists, that's what causes all the problems in your life. You have an analytical mind that if you didn't have any engrams, your analytical mind would run your life in perfection. But because these engrams affect the analytical mind, now you have issues. Scientology believes that people have hidden abilities which they've not yet realized. It is believed that increased spiritual awareness and physical benefits are accomplished through counseling sessions referred to as auditing. Through auditing, it is said that people can solve their problems and free themselves of engrams. This restores them to their natural condition as thetans and enables them to be at cause in their daily lives, responding rationally and creatively to life events, rather than reacting to them under the direction of the engrams. Auditing. It's a one-on-one session with a Scientology counselor. So you get involved in Scientology, you're assigned a counselor. It bears a superficial similarity to confession or pastoral counseling. But the auditor records and stores all information received and does not dispense forgiveness or advice the way a pastor or priest might do. Instead, the auditor's task is to help a person discover and understand their engrams and their limiting effects on them. Most auditing requires an E-meter, we talked about that, and it measures minute changes in the electrical resistance through the body when a person holds the metal cans and there's a small current pass through it. I'm looking at more about auditing. One central practice of Scientology known as auditing, which seeks to elevate an adherent to a state of clear. And that state of clear is freedom from influences of the reactive mind. The practice is one wherein a counselor called an auditor addresses a series of questions to a pre-clear, and then he observes and records the responses and acknowledges them. An important element in all forms of auditing is not to suggest answers to the pre-clear or invalidate or degrade what that pre-clear says in response. It is of utmost importance the auditor create a truly safe and distraction-free environment for the session. The term clear is derived from a button on a calculator that deletes previous calculations. I'm trying to pick out just the highlights. Thetans, according to L. Ron Hubbard's book, The History of Man. By the way, he's written several books. The History of Man. There are two entities housed in the human body. A genetic entity, whose purpose is to carry out the evolutionary line, and a thetan, or a consciousness, that has the capacity to separate from the body and the mind. According to Hubbard, in man's long evolutionary development, evolutionary development, the thetan has been trapped by the engrams formed at various stages of embodiment. Scientology training is aimed at clearing the person of all the engrams. We've said that. Exteriorization. Exteriorization is a practice in which a thetan, that's the you inside of you, functions independently of the physical body, sometimes as a result of the auditing process. According to Lawrence Wright, author of Going Clear, exteriorization is the sense that one has actually left his physical being behind. And it's a commonly reported occurrence with Scientologists. What about the afterlife? In Scientology, the human body is regarded as similar to that of other religions in that at death, the spirit will leave the body. Okay, we agree with that. But according to them, life and personality go on. The physical part of the organism ceases to function. Scientology believes in the immortality of each individual spirit, therefore making death not a significant worry. The spirit acquires another body necessary for growth and survival. To achieve an individual true identity is the primary goal. So according to Scientology beliefs, it's actually a blend of science and spirituality, with belief in an immortal spirit and the idea of improving that spirit on earth using Scientology's methods. Scientologists do not typically dwell on heaven or hell or the afterlife, instead focusing on the spirit. As I said, a lot of them belong to other churches. Scientology has no set dogma on God. It allows for individuals to come to their own understanding of God. Think about this. If you had to come to your own understanding of God, what would God be? It'd be everything you want him to be. So they're allowed to come to their own understanding. In Scientology, vastly more emphasis is given to the godlike nature of the person. Oh, so now we're godlike. And to the workings of the human mind than to the nature of God. Hubbard did not clearly define God in Scientology. When pressed about their belief, Scientologists mentioned the eight dynamic, which they say is the God dynamic. Scientologists affirm the existence of a deity without defining or describing its nature. In his book, Science of Survival, Ron Hubbard explains this way. No culture in the history of the world, save the thoroughly depraved and expiring ones, has failed to affirm the existence of a supreme being. So he says there is a supreme being. It's an empirical observation that men without a strong, lasting faith in a supreme being are less capable, less ethical, less valuable. Instead of defining God, members assert their reaching higher states of enlightenment will enable individuals to make their own conscious conclusions about the supreme being. And what this Scientology is supposed to be a combination of religion and science. Members of the church believe that Hubbard discovered the existential truths that form their doctrine through research, thus leading to the idea that Scientology is a science. Hubbard created what the church would call a spiritual technology to advance the goals of Scientology. Scientology works 100% of the time when it is properly applied to a person who sincerely desires to improve his life. The underlying claims are that Scientology is exact and certain. So they try to pass it off as a science, but of course it does not meet with qualifications of a science. They reject psychology and psychiatry. They don't believe in those practices at all. Let's see what else we have here. The church makes it clear that Hubbard is considered the sole source of Dianetics and Scientology. The Scientology religion is based exclusively upon Ron Hubbard's research, writings, and recorded lectures, all of which constitute the scriptures of the religion. His work, recorded in 500,000 pages of writings, 6,500 reels of tape, and 42 films, is archived for posterity. The Religious Technology Center holds the ultimate ecclesiastical authority and pure application of L. Ron Hubbard's religious technologies. On November 12, 1952, Hubbard delivered a lecture entitled Precision Knowledge, Necessity to Know Terminology and Law, emphasizing the importance of precise terminology. Scientology defined methods of correcting misunderstood word or symbol. Scientologists have their own technical dictionary featuring modified definitions of existing English words. Scientology dictionaries also include specialized terminology such as interbulate and havingness. Does anybody know what interbulate is? Or havingness? Well, you haven't been reading your dictionary. Here's an interesting quote. Silent birth. Advocated by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, silent birth describes the process of childbirth where labor and delivery is done in a calm and loving environment. To provide quiet surroundings for the delivery of the baby, individuals in his or her immediate vicinity are prompted not to speak. According to Scientology practices, silent birth is mandatory to provide the best possible environment for the pregnant mother and her new baby. Shouting, laughing, or making loud remarks must be avoided while the baby is being pushed out. According to the Multimedia Encyclopedia of Women in Today's World, its origins are fundamentally rooted in the principle that women, particularly expectant mothers, be given the utmost care and respect. Holidays, several holidays celebrated by the Scientology, notably his birthday in March, the anniversary of the first publication of Dianetics in May, the Sea Org Day in August, the Auditor's Day in September, and the International Association of Scientologists anniversary in October. Usually their celebrations are scheduled on weekends as a convenience. They also celebrate holidays such as Christmas, Easter, and New Year's, as well as other celebrations. Scientologists also celebrate religious holidays depending on other religious beliefs. The Scientologists very often retain their original affiliations with faiths in which they were raised. So again, they allow for people to belong to a church or a religion and still be a Scientologist. Now, in order to do that, just think about this. In order to do that, you can't be believing your religion. You've just got to be going through some motions of showing up if you're believing in Scientology. They do have Sunday services. We'll not get into that. By the way, they're one of the most litigious groups in America. I mean, they go after a lot of people. And if you've listened to the news, at times on the news, we hear about the Scientologists going after certain individuals. They don't want any of this revealed out in public. That's not their goal. They like to kind of hide behind the bushes. Let me see what else we need to talk about. Scripture, the source of authority in any religion, quickly tells the reader tells of the reader's worldview. Much of Scientology's literature never mentions God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, the Bible, salvation, or other theological terms associated with Christianity. All of L. Ron Hubbard's Scientology writings since Dianetics are considered scripture by the church. So once again, we have another revelation that didn't come along till 1950. Once again, we're adding a man-written book to a religion. Theology, they speak of a supreme being, and they speak of gods without telling its members in which, if any, to believe. The Scientology Catechism, they wrote one of those, says this: what is the Scientology concept of God? We have no dogma in Scientology, and each person's concept is different. Each person attains his own certainty as to who God is and exactly what God means to him. The author of the universe exists. How this is symbolized is dictated by your early training and conscience. Although the existence of the Supreme Being is affirmed in Scientology, his precise nature is not determined, since the church holds that each person must seek and know the divine nature in and for himself. Judges says, every man did that which was right in his own eyes. They believe there are gods above other gods. There is no argument here against the existence of a supreme being or a devaluation intended. When Hubbard mentions Jesus Christ, it is rarely in reverence, mostly with disparagement. Hubbard refused to believe in the Christian Christ. Their view of man. Man is basically good. And it carries this theme throughout his writings. And of course, we know that's not true. The Thetan spirit has some amazing characteristics, according to Hubbard. It is more than, you ready for this? It is more than 80 trillion years old and dwells somewhere within the skull of an individual. So according to them, inside this pumpkin up here, we have a Thetan, and it's 80 trillion years old. When the individual's organism dies, the Thetan, listen to this now, this is great. When the individual's organism dies, when this body dies, the Thetan reports to an implant station, one of which is on Mars, before being shot down to Earth. This is the between lives area. Here he reports in and is given a strong forgetter implants. So now he's to forget the previous life. Then he's shot down to a body just before it's born. Thetans have been known to fight other Thetans over inhabiting a body. Oh, so maybe there was a war over your body. They communicate by telepathy. They move objects by kinetics. They travel at high rates of speed. Thetans can be packed in ice and frozen, or they may be dumped into the ocean from a flying saucer. This, Hubbard assures, is quite authentic. Have you heard enough? Talk about fairy tales. And people are buying into it. People are going for it. as I said, it has a lot of the Hindu and Buddhist beliefs, Far Eastern religion type things. And it's just amazing that a man could sit down and write a book proposing all this, and people buy it as true and get involved in it and follow it. Now, those 300 people on that cruise ship were being indoctrinated. Who's talking? Well, eventually they'll go there or somewhere else. When your body dies, I don't know if you got that, your thetan goes somewhere to this restaging place, and they clean up your mind, clean up the engrams or whatever was there, who knows, and reprocess you, and you come back again. Oh, I forget where that was. Let me see if I can find this quote. It has to do with the coming back. It might be here. They do have a section on salvation here. Scientology, this is about salvation. Scientologists prefer to use the term rebirth instead of reincarnation, although reincarnation is found in their writings. Hubbard emphasized that salvation is to be free from the endless cycle of birth and rebirth. So salvation is when you finally reach Narvina. That's the proof of the way to salvation.